Wednesday, October 8. Conflicting Values. Read Joshua chapter 9, from verse 1 all the way through to verse 20. What are the similarities and differences between the story of Rahab and that of the Gibeonites? Why are they meaningful? Joshua chapter 9, reading from verse 1. And it came to pass, when all the kings who were on this side of the Jordan, in the hills and in the lowland, and in all the coasts of the great sea toward Lebanon, the Hittite, the Amorite, the Canaanite, the Perizzite, the Hivite, and the Jebusite, heard about it, that they gathered together to fight with Joshua and Israel with one accord. But when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they worked craftily, and went and pretended to be ambassadors. And they took old sacks on their donkeys, old wineskins torn and mended, old and patched sandals on their feet, and old garments on themselves, and all the bread of their provision was dry and mouldy. And they went to Joshua, to the camp at Gilgal, and said to him and to the men of Israel, We have come from a far country. Now therefore make a covenant with us. Then the men of Israel said to the Hivites, Perhaps you dwell among us, so how can we make a covenant with you? But they said to Joshua, We are your servants. And Joshua said to them, Who are you, and where do you come from? So they said to him, From a very far country your servants have come, because of the name of the Lord your God, for we have heard of his fame and all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, to Sihon king of Heshbon, and Og king of Bashan, who was at Ashtaroth. Therefore our elders and all the inhabitants of our country spoke to us, saying, Take provisions with you for the journey, and go to meet them, and say to them, We are your servants. Now therefore make a covenant with us. This bread of ours we took hot for our provision from our houses on the day we departed to come to you. But now look, it is dry and mouldy. And these wineskins which we filled were new, and see, they are torn. And these garments and our sandals have become old, because of the very long journey. Then the men of Israel took some of their provisions, but they did not ask counsel of the Lord. So Joshua made peace with them, and made a covenant with them to let them live. And the rulers of the congregation swore to them. And it happened at the end of the 3 days, after they had made a covenant with them, that they heard that they were their neighbours who dwelt near them. Then the children of Israel journeyed and came to their cities on the 3rd day. Now their cities were Gibeon, Chephirah, Beeroth, and Kirjath-jearim. But the children of Israel did not attack them, because the rulers of the congregation had sworn to them by the Lord God of Israel. And all the congregation complained against the rulers. Then all the rulers said to all the congregation, We have sworn to them by the Lord God of Israel. Now therefore we may not touch them. This we will do to them. We will let them live, lest wrath be upon us because of the oath which we swore to them. This chapter of Joshua starts by informing us that the Canaanite kings who usually ruled over small city-states decided to create a coalition against the Israelites. By contrast, the inhabitants of Gibeon decided to establish a covenant with Israel. In order to trick the Israelites into making a covenant with them, the Gibeonites resort to the scheme of being ambassadors from a foreign country. According to Deuteronomy chapter 20, verses 10 to 18, God made a distinction between the Canaanites and people who lived outside the promised land.
Deuteronomy chapter 20, Verses 10 to 18, when you go near a city to fight against it, then proclaim an offer of peace to it. And it shall be that if they accept your offer of peace and open to you, then all the people who are found in it shall be placed under tribute to you and serve you. Now, if the city will not make peace with you, but war against you, then you shall besiege it. And when the Lord your God delivers it into your hands, you shall strike every male in it with the edge of the sword. But the women, the little ones, the livestock, and all that is in the city, all its spoil, you shall plunder for yourself, and you shall eat the enemy's plunder which the Lord your God gives you. Thus you shall do to all the cities which are very far from you, which are not of the cities of these nations, but of the cities of these peoples which the Lord your God gives you as an inheritance. You shall let nothing that breathes remain alive, but you shall utterly destroy them, the Hittite and the Amorite and the Canaanite and the Perizzite and the Hivite and the Jebusite, just as the Lord your God commanded you, lest they teach you to do according to all their abominations which they have done for their gods, and you sin against the Lord your God.
The word translated as craftily or cunningly can be used with a positive meaning, denoting prudence and wisdom. See Proverbs chapter 1 verse 4, Proverbs chapter 8 verse 5 and 12. Or negatively, implying criminal intent. See Exodus chapter 21 verse 14, 1 Samuel chapter 23 verse 22, and Psalms chapter 83 verse 3.
Proverbs chapter 1 verse 4 reads, "To give prudence to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion." And Proverbs 8 verse 5, "O you simple ones, understand prudence, and you fools, be of an understanding heart." And Proverbs 8 verse 12, "I, wisdom, dwell with prudence, and find out knowledge and discretion." And Exodus 21 verse 14, "But if a man acts with premeditation against his neighbour, to kill him by treachery, you shall take him from my altar, that he may die." And 1 Samuel chapter 23 verse 22, "Please go and find out for sure, and see the place where his hideout is, and who has seen him there, for I am told he is very crafty." And Psalm 88 verse 3, "They have taken crafty counsel against your people, and consulted together against your sheltered ones."
In the case of the Gibeonites, behind their treacherous action lies a less destructive intent of self-preservation. The speech of the Gibeonites is strikingly similar to that of Rahab. Both acknowledge the power of Israel's God, and both acknowledge that Israel's success is not simply a human feat. In contrast to other Canaanites, they do not rebel against Yahweh's plan to grant the land to the Israelites, and they admit that the Lord himself is driving these nations out before Israel. The news of the deliverance from Egypt and the victories over Sihon and Og prompt both Rahab and the Gibeonites to seek an alliance with the Israelites. However, instead of fully acknowledging their willingness to surrender to the God of Israel, as Rahab does, the Gibeonites resort to a subterfuge. The law of Moses made provisions for learning the will of God in such cases as this. See Numbers chapter 27, verses 16 through to verse 21.
Numbers chapter 27, beginning at verse 16, "Let the Lord, the God of the spirits of all flesh, set a man over the congregation, who may go out before them and go in before them, who may lead them out and bring them in, that the congregation of the Lord may not be like sheep which have no shepherd." And the Lord said to Moses, "Take Joshua the son of Nun with you, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay your hand on him. Set him before Eleazar the priest and before all the congregation, and inaugurate him in their sight. And you shall give some of your authority to him, that all the congregation of the children of Israel may be obedient. He shall stand before Eleazar the priest, who shall inquire before the Lord for him by the judgment of the Urim. At his word they shall go out, and at his word they shall come in, he and all the children of Israel with him, all the congregation.
Joshua should have inquired for the will of the Lord and avoided the deception of the Gibeonites. The fundamental duty of a theocratic leader, and of any Christian leader, is to seek God's will. See 1 Chronicles chapter 28 verse 9, 2 Chronicles chapter 15 verse 2, and 2 Chronicles chapter 18 verse 4, and also 2 Chronicles chapter 20 verse 4.
1 Chronicles 28 verse 9 reads, "As for you, my son Solomon, know the God of your father, and serve him with a loyal heart and with a willing mind. For the Lord searches all hearts and understands all the intents of the thoughts. If you seek him, he will be found by you. But if you forsake him, he will cast you off forever." And 2 Chronicles 15 verse 2, "And he went out to meet Asa, and said to him, Hear me, Asa, and all Judah and Benjamin. The Lord is with you while you are with him. If you seek him, he will be found by you. But if you forsake him, he will forsake you." And 2 Chronicles 18 and verse 4. "Also Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, Please inquire for the word of the Lord today." And 2 Chronicles 20 verse 4, "So Judah gathered together to ask help from the Lord, and from all the cities of Judah they came to seek the Lord."
By neglecting it, the Israelites were compelled either to violate the fundamental conditions of conquering the land, or to break an oath made in the name of the Lord, which was equally binding. For this
And
lesson's
remember,
question,
God is
how often
always
have you
faithful.
found yourself struggling between what appears to be two conflicting biblical values?
Wednesday, October 8. Conflicting Values. From Shechem, the Israelites returned to their encampment at Gilgal. Here they were soon after visited by a strange deputation who desired to enter into treaty with them. The ambassadors represented that they had come from a distant country, and this seemed to be confirmed by their appearance. Their clothing was old and worn, their sandals were patched, their provisions moldy, and the skins that served them for wine bottles were rent and bound up, as if hastily repaired on the journey. These representations prevailed, and Joshua made peace with them and made a league with them to let them live. And the princes of the congregation sware unto them. Thus the treaty was entered into. But it would have fared better with the Gibeonites had they dealt honestly with Israel. While their submission to Jehovah secured the preservation of their lives, their deception brought them only disgrace and servitude. God had made provision that all who would renounce heathenism and connect themselves with Israel should share the blessings of the covenant. They were included under the term, "the stranger that sojourneth among you." And with few exceptions, this class were to enjoy equal favors and privileges with Israel. The Lord's direction was, "If a stranger sojourn with thee in your land, ye shall not vex him. But the stranger that dwelleth with you shall be unto you as one born among you, and thou shalt love him as thyself." Leviticus chapter 19, verses 33 and 34. Such was the footing on which the Gibeonites might have been received, but for the deception to which they had resorted. It was no light humiliation to those citizens of a royal city. All the men whereof were mighty, to be made hewers of wood and drawers of water throughout their generations. But they had adopted the garb of poverty for the purpose of deception, and it was fastened upon them as a badge of perpetual servitude. Thus, through all their generations, their servile condition would testify to God's hatred of falsehood. Conflict and Courage, page 122. The submission of Gibeon to the Israelites filled the kings of Canaan with dismay. Steps were at once taken for revenge upon those who had made peace with the invaders. Under the leadership of Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, 5 of the Canaanite kings entered into a confederacy against Gibeon. Their movements were rapid. The Gibeonites were unprepared for defense, and they sent a message to Joshua at Gilgal. Slack not thy hand from thy servants. Come up to us quickly and save us and help us. For all the kings of the Amorites that dwell in the mountains are gathered together against us. The danger threatened not the people of Gibeon alone, but also Israel. This city commanded the passes to central and southern Palestine, and it must be held if the country was to be conquered. Joshua prepared to go at once to the relief of Gibeon. The inhabitants of the besieged city had feared that he would reject their appeal because of the fraud which they had practiced. But since they had submitted to the control of Israel and had accepted the worship of God, he felt himself under obligation to protect them. He did not this time move without divine counsel, and the Lord encouraged him in the undertaking. Fear them not, was the divine message, for I have delivered them into thine hand. There shall not a man of them stand before thee. So Joshua ascended from Gilgal, he and all the people of war with him, and all the mighty men of valor. Patriarchs and Prophets, page 507.
And remember, God is always faithful.